Welcome back to the Against All Odds, the Less Than 1% Chance podcast with your host, Maria Ponte, where we will hear stories of incredible people thriving against all odds. And my hope is that we can all see how life is always happening for us, even when we are the less than 1% chance. Hey, welcome back to Against All Odds, the Less Than 1% Chance podcast with your host, Maria Aponte. I hope you're doing fantastic today. I want to take a moment because I have my second international guest on, and I am so excited. I just chatted with her a little bit prior to, and you guys are in for such a treat today. So Emmilia O'Sullivan is an inspirational young lady who has faced life's challenges head on and always does so with positivity and humor, which is all so needed. She is full of life, enthusiastic, and very passionate about providing support to people like her that have been through horrendous medical issues and diagnosis. In Emmilia's short 30 years, she has endured more than one person would experience in their entire lifetime, including there's a ton of things on here, so I'm going to say a few, but there's a kidney transplant, spinal fusion, neck dissections, cardiac arrest, oh my goodness, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, pneumonia, sepsis, and oh my gosh, let's just say I'm going to give her the space to speak a little bit more about all the things that she has been through, but she has defied all odds over and over again. She is here to tell her story, and really when she got to the point where she can maybe write a book, she did. And so she's got a book that she wrote and is promoting now. So I am so excited because after this I am going to get it immediately. But the book is called I Should Be Effin' Dead, which is so funny because I literally a few days ago from this recording, I posted I almost died 5 times. And it's so crazy that this is you see, when we put our energy at that vibration of, you know what, I'm just going to go there, and you attract the people that you're supposed to have in your life for whatever reason it may be. So welcome, Em. I'm
Thank
so
you.
excited to have you. Give us a little bit of background of your story, and I know that you've been through a lot of things, so I want to hear just a little bit of your background.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so honored to be your first Australian guest.
Yes.
Where do I even start? I suppose the start's a good place. I was born with kidney disease and had my right kidney removed and lived most of my life on one kidney. I was fine. I lived a main proper child life. It wasn't until I was about 15 or 16. And that's when my kidney was at 20% function. The problem that we were facing was that I was having reflux from my bladder going up to my kidney and damaging it. I was also very prone to infections, so that was also damaging it. So I had my specialists and I was told that I had to have a kidney transplant. The problem we were facing was, though, if I was to have a kidney transplant, it was just the same thing was going to happen. Everything was going to get damaged again because of the bladder. So when I was
Yeah.
17, I had my first major, well, actually, my second major surgery. So my first one was when I had my kidney removed, and they had to reconstruct my whole bladder. So they cut open my bladder, they grabbed a bit of my intestine, made it bigger and rounder, and it actually fixed the issue. So I was happy. It was all recovering. And then we still had this kidney issue because, again, it was only at 20%. So 4 years later, it declined and I had to have the transplant. I got a transplant from my dad. So it was very lucky
Aw.
and fortunate because in
Yeah.
Australia, I'm not too sure what it's like in America, but in Australia, the waiting list is very long. It's 5 to 7 years. And also in Australia, you have to opt to be a donor.
Yeah.
Whereas in a lot of other countries, you're automatically a donor and then you have to opt out. So we are
Yeah.
trying to get that in Australia. So hopefully it happens. But anyway, I had the kidney transplant and again, it all worked perfectly fine. I was all recovering and I had a good working kidney. And it was about 8 or 9 months later and I started to go back to the gym. So I had to get fit and healthy again. I was on a steroid, and that made me put on a lot of weight, about 12 kilos. I wasn't used to it. So I thought, right, I'm going to really get into my health now. So I changed my diet. I started going to the gym, and then I got this knee pain, and I went to all these different doctors, and I went to emergency a few times, got sent home with painkillers, scan after scan, and everyone's telling me there's nothing wrong. You've just gone to the gym, you've injured yourself, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. Anyway, it
Yeah.
got to the point where I was sitting upright and I couldn't even lay down. I was in excruciating pain. And I thought, no, this is not normal. Like, I need something. I need to do something. So I actually went to my previous kidney specialist at the time, and I explained to him that I couldn't lay down. And he said, well, that's strange. Why would it get worse if I was laying down? It's in the knee. So he goes, look, I'm going to order a full body CT scan. And I thought, okay, let's do it. So I did that, and I got a call the next day, and he said, you need to go straight to hospital. I've got a bed booked in for you. Go there. I'll meet you there later. I thought, okay, well, they've found something, obviously.
Yeah.
I had no idea what it was. So packed everything, went to the hospital. They started testing further. So they did a PET scan. I had a little lump in my groin area. So they did a biopsy. They did a bone marrow biopsy. So by the time they did all these tests, a week had gone past. I was in a hospital for a week. Then my kidney doctor walked in with a hematologist, so a blood cancer or blood doctor. And they looked at me and they pretty much said, you've been diagnosed with stage 3 non Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I've just looked at them and I've gone, okay, so what's the treatment and when do we start? And they're
Yeah.
like, they just looked at me and was like, well, is that all you got to say? I'm like, yeah. I want
Yep.
to know the treatment now. I want to know how long it's going to take, because I want to hurry up and do this treatment because I want to move on with my life. I've got things to do. Everyone around me is crying. My parents and my boyfriend at the time were just distraught. And I was the rock when I was going through everything. And so this was on a Wednesday. I remember the day. And by Friday, 2 days later, I was on the chemotherapy ward, starting my first treatment of
Wow.
chemotherapy. So that lasted 6 months. And then I was in remission. So I was happy. I beat it. I didn't really struggle throughout the chemo. The only thing, I believe it or not, was when I lost my hair. That's what I really struggled with,
Yeah.
because I suppose being a female, it's your form of identity, right? And when it's
Yep.
coming out in clumps uncontrollably, you start to freak out. So I ended up getting a blonde wig. It was my opportunity to go blonde. And
Yes.
see, looking at the good
Was it
things.
more fun?
It was more fun at the time. And I got my auntie at the time. She was a hairdresser back in the day. And I said, we're shaving it. And she goes, why? Just let it fall out. And I said, no. I go, I want to be in control. It's going to be on my terms. So that's it. We shaved it and I put the wig on, and then I was okay. I was fine. So this brings us, yeah, towards the end of 2015 now. And I was in remission for the lymphoma, but they'd found tumors in my liver. And they're like, well, that's strange. So they biopsied them, and they're called EBV driven smooth muscle tumors. So the Epstein Barr virus, which is also known as the glandular fever virus, that was driving these tumors, and they had no idea what they were. They had no idea how to treat them. I think still to this day, I'm the only one in Australia that is diagnosed with them. Yeah. So it was trial and error, and it was, well, what do we do? And at this point in time, they were only in the liver. And so we did an internal radiation therapy where they directly inject radiation internally. And I suppose the students had a mixed response. Some of them went quiet, went away. Some of them just went inactive, and some of them were still there. So we thought, okay, well, what else can we do? And then there was a medication at the time where it had, well, there was research and it said that it had properties to try and get rid of tumors or suppress the tumors. So we thought, okay, we'll try that. We tried that, but it actually had the opposite effect in me. It actually grew them more, and they started developing in all other areas. So other areas were in my head, in my neck, in my spine, in my lung, in my bladder. They were everywhere. But this particular tumor doesn't spread by the bloodstream. So they're all new occurrences. So I said to the doctors, I said, no, I don't want this medication anymore. Take me off it. So we removed that. And then we thought, well, what do we do now? And then more research was done, and it was actually one of my specialists. We've got a cancer hospital here in Victoria, in Melbourne, and it's called the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre. So they had some contacts in America, and there was a trial of T cell therapy, but this therapy was targeted for the EBV virus. So I was actually having stuff flown from America to Australia, and I was having this treatment. And again, I got a mixed response. Everything's died down a little bit, and I was okay. And they were all stable, and I was happy with that. I said, look, they can live there as long as they don't cause me any harm.
Exactly. As
Um,
long as they're not messing with me, I got
that's
this.
it. I got it. They can stay there. So we did some of that therapy. And then I went on a holiday to Sri Lanka. And when we got back, I felt very ill and went into hospital, and I ended up getting pneumonia. And pneumonia is horrible. It is so painful, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, to be honest. Anyway, as they were doing testing, they found a tumor in my lungs. So that had to get removed. Got that removed, had 5 rounds of radiation, all good. So I was fine with that. And then I started getting lots of bladder infections, and that's when we discovered the one in the bladder. So we had to get that one
Oh,
removed. Then a few years had passed. So, I was in and out of hospital, having various treatments. And then I got to the end of 2019, and I was stable enough. Everything was coming back clear. My scans were stable. And my husband and I thought, well, let's family plan. Let's think about starting a family of our own. Now, I had a rod in my arm. It's called the Implanon rod. It's a contraception rod. And that was due to come out. So I got it taken out, and I didn't get my menstrual cycle back. It was 3 months later. So I went to the doctors and said, well, it's not back. Oh, let's just give it another 3 months. I said, okay, well, fair enough. So we waited another three, so 6 months in total, and still not back. So more testing, did a blood test of all my hormones, and they were just zero. There was nothing there. And then that led to an MRI on my head area. And then I got called in again immediately. And so you've got your brain, and then you've got your pituitary gland, which is just under your brain. And that regulates all your hormones, as you probably
yeah,
already know.
that's what the signals
Yeah, and the signal.
that your
So there's a
body.
little stalk. Yeah. So that
Mhm.
stalk. So it basically, I had a tumor that was sitting in that area below the brain, and it was pushing on the stalk. So it was damaging the stalk. So I was never ever going to get my period, and still don't now. So the week later, I had to have a craniotomy. So they cut my head open, all on my right side, removed the tumor, well, 90 something percent of the tumor. And then a week later, they went through my nose and did a transpenoidal surgery to remove the rest of my tumor. Then I had to have a skin graft to fix all the inside of that area. But as a result, my nerve got cut. So my right eyelid doesn't go up or down.
Oh my gosh.
So it's permanently shut now. And my confidence was just way like below low.
Yeah.
I wasn't even confident to begin with, and then let alone this has happened. So I was so grateful that they'd removed 100% of the tumor and that was gone. But I had to face this confidence issue now. And I initially wore like a makeup remover pad, eye patch sort of thing, and just pretended I had an eye surgery just so people wouldn't ask. I would try and cover it up. I wouldn't be going out as much. I'm a very social person. I love going
Yeah.
out, but I didn't even want to go down to the supermarket. That's how bad I was. And then I said to myself, no, Amelia, you need to get out. Like, this is your life now. You need to accept it. So I changed my mind, my positive thinking, and accepted it and said, well, no, you know what? I haven't changed as a person. Yeah, I might physically look different, but I'm still me. So that was a lot to get through, but I got through it all. And then I learned that people were just staring because they were curious, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think they were doing it in a
Yeah.
bad way.
I think that people, because they're not used to,
That's
and
right.
I feel like when we're in grade school, it's the teasing, but
Mm,
as we're older, I don't think it's even the teasing, it's the curiosity and
it is.
like what's
Like
her
it's unknown.
story?
Yeah.
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 So,
So in the end, now I just walk in with confidence, pretend it's not even there. And most people don't even look anymore. So just having to have that inner confidence. So I was recovering from that and I was all good. And then a couple of months later, I had to have the routine scan to make sure everything was good. And I said to the doctors, because I had tumors all on the sides of my neck. And I
yeah,
said, oh, it's bulging and it's really uncomfortable. I go, can we just do a scan just to see for future if I can get them removed? And they're like,
yeah.
yep, why not? So did that. And then again, got called in a week later. And I thought, oh God, they've found something now. And turns out that my C5 vertebrae had a little tumor in it and fractured it. I had no symptoms, nothing. They're like, are you in pain anywhere? I said, no. I was actually running a fish and chip takeaway shop with my parents at the time. So it was quite
Oh
physical
my
and I
gosh.
was running
Yeah.
around and doing that. So yeah, I had nothing. Nothing was indicating that I had a fractured vertebrae. So again, I was scheduled for surgery. And so they did a neck dissection where they removed the tumors on both sides. And then they put a cage in the front to try and stabilize the spine.
Yeah.
But because of my previous use of steroids, my bones are not very good. They're quite weak. So
Yeah.
2 days later, they had to do a fusion. So they did a fusion from C2 to T1. So I believe that's like 8 levels or something like that, 7 or 8 levels.
Oh my God.
So I was back to square one and I had to go through physical rehab and I couldn't eat or talk for a good month because they moved my vocal cord.
Yeah.
I was on a puree diet, so essentially a baby diet. Yeah, just everything. And I suppose what I learned from that was that you take the little things for granted, like the ability to take a step or the ability to swallow some water or something. It's just an everyday thing that you just do subconsciously. And when you suddenly can't do that, you realize
It makes you
it
appreciate life so much
does.
more.
Absolutely, it does. So, again, I was in rehab and personal training and got myself good. So, it was all good. And then, so then we come to the following year and I'm 30. So, I'm 31 now and I'm just about to turn 30 years old. So, I had my party and I loved it so much. And then we hit November and it was one Sunday morning. I remember it clearly. It was November the 20th in 2022. And I'd woken up and I wasn't feeling the best. And so I said to my husband, look, I'm going to have a shower. I'm just going to go back to bed and rest. And he goes, that's fine. And he went out to do yard work. He never does yard work ever. So I'm
Of
like, go
all
for
days.
it. Like, I'm going to embrace this. You go out there, I'll rest. We'll be fine. Anyway, a few hours later, he'd come to check on me and I was in a pool of sweat, but I was shivering at the same time. I didn't really know what was going on. I was super thirsty and but I didn't want to drink. I didn't feel like drinking, let alone eating. And I was like, I know that, like, I've felt this before. I knew what was happening because I had sepsis multiple times.
Oh
And
my
I knew,
gosh.
great, I think I've got sepsis again. So I said to my husband, look, pack my hospital bag. I'll go use the bathroom and then you'll have to take me to hospital. He goes, okay. And I went to try and get up and I was just so dizzy, I couldn't even walk. So I go,
Oh
well,
my
scrap that.
gosh.
I can't do that. Tried to walk to the car, couldn't do that either. So I said to my husband, well, I think you're going to have to call the ambulance. Now, within the space of half an hour, I was conscious to pretty much almost passing out, and my heart rate hit like 150 or 160. My blood pressure had dropped. I check my blood pressure regularly because of my kidney, and
Yeah.
the machine wasn't even detecting my heart rate. Sorry, my blood pressure.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so when the ambulance came, they checked and it was in like the 80s or something. So it was very low. So I was rushed straight to emergency, lights and sirens. And all I remember is being wheeled into the emergency department, into the resuscitation room. And then I remember all these doctors poking and prodding me, trying to get a line into me as in a drip. And then that's it. I don't remember anything else. So turns out that I was put into an induced coma because when you've got sepsis, it's the infection that enters your bloodstream and starts shutting down all your organs.
Yeah.
And you're very prone to brain damage as well because your brain's an
Yep.
organ and it starts affecting that. So they put you into an induced coma to save you, basically. But a couple of days into the coma, I suffered a cardiac arrest because my blood pressure was still dropping. So I think I was pretty much unconscious for 2.5 minutes. And in the medical world, that is huge. Like
Yeah,
2.5 minutes
is.
could be life or death or brain damage or no damage.
Yeah.
Anyway, thankfully, I was resuscitated, revived, and I wasn't out of the woods though. I got told afterwards from my family that they got told every day to say goodbye to me because they didn't think I was going to survive. So that coma lasted 7 days. And then they woke me up. And I remember waking up and I had the tube down my throat. And my first initial instinct was to grab the tube and rip it out. And I've never seen a nurse run so quickly to grab shackles. And they literally shackled me to the bed and was like, no, you can't do that. And I
My
couldn't speak because I
goodness.
had the tube down my throat, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there awake with a tube down my throat in a bed, shackled. So not only was I in hospital, I also felt like I was, in prison now.
Like in prison. Yeah, I was gonna say it's like you're in jail in
Yeah.
prison.
And that's it. I'm strapped to this bed and I was trying to talk and I couldn't talk. And then I grabbed my hand and I was trying to like write and trying to write something in the air. And all I could hear the nurse was saying, don't worry, like we're gonna take it out, we're gonna take it out. And I'm trying to say to him, like, now soon, like I need it out. I don't know how long time. Like for me, it felt like hours. It was probably only 15, 20 minutes. But the biggest test was I going to survive once this tube was out? And so that was the scariest thing because I was awake and conscious at this time. And
Yeah.
I got told it too. And my husband was in the room with me. And obviously I survived, but they pulled it out.
Obviously, if not, this would be a totally different show.
Yes. And so they pulled it out and they put a mask on me straight away. And I took a breath and everyone was so happy and relieved. And then some funny things that I did afterwards was once I like was able to breathe and talk, first thing I asked my husband was, did you pay the gas bill? And he just looked at me and goes, so that's all you got to
What?
say? I'm like, yeah, did you? Because I handle all the finances in our home. I had no idea like what he'd done. That was pretty funny. And then the second thing I said to him was, I want to go for a walk. And he goes, Amelia, you can't. Like, if you just seen what you've been through, I don't care. I'm like, I want to go for a walk. So the nurses came in and I just kept asking, and they're like, well, you don't have any shoes. So my husband got in the car, went to home, got shoes, brought them back. They sat me out of bed and they gave me a walker because obviously I was so weak. I
Yeah.
couldn't do anything. I'm pretty sure they lifted me up so I was standing. And then I took like 2 steps and I was like, no, I'm done. So I
Yeah.
turned around and sat back into the chair. But the fact that I could sit up and I was alive was just a blessing. And I was
Yeah.
so grateful for that. But then I knew I had a long road of recovery because, like I said, I had no muscle mass at all. I had to use a
Yeah.
walker. Again, I couldn't walk properly. I had to learn how to eat again. And I was on the puree diet again. And I've been there, done that. I knew it was happening.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I recovered from that. And here we are now. So I'm 31. I'm fine now. Everything's stable. And so I decided to write a book because I needed to. And I
Yeah.
think initially I wrote it for myself.
Yeah.
Um,
It's very cathartic.
but
Like, I think it leaves your legacy no matter what. That story doesn't end with you. That story is on forever.
that's right, exactly.
Yeah. And I think it just shows your resiliency, your strength, your heart, because that's definitely not for the faint of heart. I'm over here gripping my chair and I can't, like, I've been through not all. I've been through a few things that I can relate to with you, and I remember how difficult that was. And
Yeah,
to have one thing after the other, after the other, after the other
yeah.
for uh, let's
Essentially
see,
10 years. So over the last 10 years, every year something. So it all didn't happen at
something.
once. It was literally I would recover from something and then something else would happen. I'd recover from something and then something else. So consecutively for 10 years. Um,
Yeah, that's not an easy feat. And it shows, and we can talk about the things that you're passionate about as well, but it does show your resiliency and the fact that literally you are the odd in Australia. Like
absolutely.
so many, if with so many different little things, the fact that they were flying medication from halfway across the world
Yeah,
for you to get, like, that is all very That's just incredible that you are here, that I'm so honored to be talking to you right now, and it
You.
it just it blows my mind that someone could be, and everything is obviously relative to that person, but so I don't ever want to, like, guilt or shame anyone for experiencing a difficult thing.
Yeah.
However, if we take that example of, like, taking in all this information and, "Okay, what do we gotta do?"
Yeah,
And making sure that whatever it was, we're not prolonging the moment of, like, we'll feel the situation and, "Okay, what do we gotta do?" And
exactly.
taking
Exactly.
action in that, because again, like you said, you don't have time to waste. You
No.
want to continue to live your life, and the amounts of surgeries that you've had were not small surgeries. They were very huge surgeries. I have just a question. When they did the surgery for the pituitary gland,
Yeah.
did that change anything? Were you able to signal now your body to signal for
No.
hormones?
So I can't signal hormones, but I've done many rounds of IVF,
Mhm.
and at that point, I didn't even know if I could, even if I had eggs, to be honest, because I'd gone
Yeah,
through so much treatment. So I did get some eggs, and we managed to create some embryos. So obviously not pregnant yet, but the fact that I could even one create eggs was just a miracle. And then
yeah,
the fact that they were good enough to turn into embryos is just a whole. So some haven't taken, and some were miscarriages and things like that. But that's just a whole nother journey that I'm still on.
yeah. If you don't mind me asking, are you trying to carry the baby, or are you looking okay.
So initially, yes. So, and people think I'm crazy. And
No,
my
I
husband and
think
I
it's
had this discussion with many doctors and with each other. And I'm a what if sort of person is in the terms of if I don't try, I'm going to think for the rest of my life, what if I did try? And so we're basically going to try until either my body says to me, no, enough's enough, or financially, or whatever the situation is, mentally, like that's a whole nother level of
yeah,
mental strength there. Surrogacy is very hard in Australia. There's a whole bunch of rules where you're not allowed to advertise for a surrogate. Someone has to essentially volunteer, and there's a whole bunch of legalities with it as well. Overseas is an option as well. So we might have to explore that one day. And then our last resort would definitely be adoption as well. But again, in
yeah.
Australia, that's a whole other thing. So we're just starting off with the basics and then working our way through that.
Yeah.
Uh,
If I had my parts, because I had a full hysterectomy, I would
oh,
totally volunteer.
oh,
That was,
this
yeah.
year.
I always wanted to do surrogacy. And the reason was because when I was 19, I was told that I couldn't have kids.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I didn't end up doing IVF, but I did do 18 months of fertility treatments.
Yes. Yeah.
And
It's hard. It's time. You've got to have medication. You've got to have scans. Like, it is
yeah,
hard.
it is hard and heartbreaking
Oh,
all
yes.
together.
Yep.
And when it's crazy because when I finally said to my husband at the time, my ex-husband, but when I finally was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. We were on our way. We were gonna go on vacation that month, to visit family, and we're from Puerto Rico.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I have this last round of pills and I'm done. I can't anymore. This has been
Yeah.
a year and a half. I'm only like 20 years old, 21. And I'm like, I just can't continue this. This is just so hard. And so we went on vacation, and that was the first ovulation I had in I don't know how long.
Yeah.
And
That's
and I was
crazy.
like,
That's
hold everything. We are staying at my mother-in-law's house. It was my sister-in-law's graduation. This is the crazy part. I remember the day I got pregnant. It was May
uh,
25th.
yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, we're not going to a party. We're gonna have our own party. And this hasn't happened in so long. And
Oh,
so yeah,
crazy.
it just It was one of those moments that I was like, "I can't even believe it." And
Yeah,
so, given the fact that I had gone through so much, like, ups and downs and heartbreaks and all the things, if I had I always wanted to I talked about wanting to adopt or
yeah.
being a surrogate because I was then blessed with not just my daughter, my oldest daughter, but I had 2 more afterwards,
Oh, that's amazing.
and I was like, "Oh, I wish I could," and then
Yeah,
but I had a full hysterectomy, so I can't carry it anymore,
no,
but
that's
it
okay.
but
But yeah,
man,
that's a
that
classic example of, like, and that's what I feel like when you're at the end of that, you've had enough and you're like, "That's it, I'm gonna throw everything at this last one because that's it, I'm done after that."
yeah,
And it just works, and I love those stories because
yeah.
it just proves that anything can happen at any time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, the desire was always there,
Mhm,
but it was just like allowing yourself to just trust that whatever. What
exactly.
I'm
Yeah,
not even gonna push it anymore. I'm
yeah,
just gonna allow things to happen. And I was
yeah.
on vacation, so I was relaxed. And yeah, it is that moment of like, I understand your what if. So that's why I'm asking. I asked because I understand that what if,
Yeah.
and I wanted to know, like, I know that you've had some surgery, so I didn't know if that created extra complications.
All I've been told is that if it does happen, obviously I'll be a high risk pregnancy,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
inevitable, obviously. But I've got a really good team of doctors now and I've got everything lined up and I've got full trust in them now. So that doesn't worry me. It's just the whole getting there in the first place. That's the
Yeah.
part. And I put
Yeah.
so much pressure on myself because like when you touched on about being relaxed, I think it makes such a difference because initially I was putting so much pressure on myself and things weren't working and I wasn't even getting eggs at one stage because I think I had that much pressure on myself. And then I was
Yeah.
overthinking everything and I think, yeah, now I'm gonna go back into it. Like I took a break. I had to. I was like, I
Yeah.
can't
You
keep
have
doing
to.
this.
Yeah. Mentally,
Um,
emotionally, it is so draining.
it is.
And physically, like, I think physically is probably the last
It is. It
drain.
honestly is. And so like I've been so grateful to throughout everything I've been through, I haven't suffered any mental diagnoses. And
Yeah.
I think I was on the verge with IVF because that's
Yeah.
how it affected me mentally. And you don't realize, like, I was like, go and cut my head open 10 times over. I'll go and do that. Put me through
Yeah.
an IVF situation.
And
Um,
it's a whole different
a
ball
whole
game
different
there.
thing. Yeah, exactly. So I'll get
Yeah.
there eventually.
You will. I truly believe in that, and I think that your story is now international, and I think that
Yes.
you'll have more people rooting for you, and I completely believe in the power of prayer or intention and whatever that is, right? So when
Yep.
you put good intention out to the world and you look at the at life the way that you're looking at it and the way that you take it on, I
Yeah.
think that creates this extra community of people that back you up no matter what. And I feel like the a part of my like I had cancer 4 times. The third and fourth time it was at the age of 32 and I was a single mom of 3 kids and like
Oh,
all of these things were
that would have been so
I
scary.
I leaned into community.
Yeah.
And I was very vocal about everything that I was going through, and I was like, "Okay, I need all of the good intentions, all the good vibes, whatever you believe in, your God, whatever.
Yeah.
However you decide that you need to, like, connect to a
The
higher
higher power.
spirit,
Yeah.
whatever you do, just send good vibes my way."
That's it.
And I really truly feel that, like, the more we have that, the more we put our story out there, the more you good intentions and good vibes and good prayers and good all of that goes your way. And then you just have to trust and that everything
Mhm.
will work out the way it's supposed to work out. I remember getting to a point in our journey that I was like, maybe it's that there's a kid out there that really needs us,
Mhm.
that is already like already alive, that is already here.
Yep.
And maybe that's the journey. Maybe I have to just trust that's the journey.
Exactly.
And it was like this sense of and that was like that month, at the beginning of that month of May, of that year, I looked at my husband at the time and I was just like, maybe it's just that. Maybe it's just that, like, I'm pushing for this so much
Yeah.
because I know in my heart that I'm meant to be a mom. I
Mhm.
know it. But maybe it's because the kid that needs us, that needs me to be their mom, you to be their dad, is already
Already
here.
yeah. Yep. Yep.
And that needs our love, that's all, maybe
Exactly.
that's the case. And it's just that moment of surrender that you're like, whatever it needs to be.
Yep.
And then life does its little thing and
And then you get your miracle in the end.
exactly. Whatever that may be. I think even with all of your surgeries and everything, it's just knowing that I took the action steps to get better.
That's right.
So however that may look,
Yeah.
if it's not IVF, if it's whatever, if
Whatever it
it
is, exactly.
whatever it is, I'm on the right path because
Yeah,
I'm doing it all with good intention and
that's it. A lot of people ask me, "Oh, how can you believe in a higher power or whatever you wanna believe in when you've been through all this? Like, all this stuff's horrible." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you know what? Someone or something is looking out there for me because I wouldn't have got through any of this
yeah.
without that."
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and like you said, it's grown me as a person. It's made me who I am today. I wouldn't be this person if I hadn't gone through any of that. So I've got to be grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that when we like when you're in a place where you have come so close to not being here anymore, there's just a different way to look at life with the lens of full on gratitude that
Yep.
there isn't time for wasting it on that energy, that thought process. Do
Yeah.
we have our moments? Absolutely.
Oh, of
And our
course
moments
we
are
do.
so necessary for us to be
Yeah.
able to process all the things.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
moments are so needed.
Yeah.
Um, but to stay stuck in those moments, it's not
No.
worth it.
Oh,
Like,
trust me, I have had my there has been times where I've been stuck in my bed, and then I get like, tell myself off. I'm like, "No, stop it." Like, "You've had your
yeah,
moment now. Get out
yeah,
there and do your thing."
yeah. I think that
So,
I used to say all the time, everything happens for a reason. And then I shifted that. I was listening, I don't remember what author, I think it was Rachel Hollis, but she mentioned something that really made me shift that saying.
yeah.
Don't think that everything happens for a reason because there's not a reason that a child has to go through the things that you went through.
True. Yeah, I like that.
However, I do think that there's a purpose for everything that we go through and there's a
Yeah.
meaning behind all of it.
Yeah.
And so if we can take a moment and find that purpose and that meaning,
Yeah.
then everything happened the way it needed to
Exactly. Yeah.
because now we have a bigger purpose. Now with your story, you can help so many other
Oh,
people.
that would be my absolute dream. That is my dream. If I can help anyone out there, then by all
Yeah.
means, I'd be more than happy to just be their buddy and just be there and say, "Hey, I'm rooting for you. You've
Yeah.
got this. I know you can do it."
Yeah. So what's your thought process when you receive a diagnosis? It's not an easy thing, but
No,
I want to know
not at
what
all.
your process is.
My thought process, well, it's different. I feel like most people would just cry. Emotions are a
Yeah.
very big thing. And most people would just think, "Oh my God, my life is shuttered," and they'll start crying. They don't know what to do. I suppose mine's more of like I don't know, a logical thinking where I just go, "Okay, so you've told me I've got this now." And then it's, all right, so now I need to work out how long I'm going to be in treatment for. What is the treatment? Am I going to have a surgery? Is it just going to be a drip? Is it going to be this? Do I need to stop working? And so I just analyze it's more analytical. That's the word,
Yeah.
analytical.
Yeah.
So I just
Analytical.
basically analyze the whole situation and just prepare myself with, okay, I've got a speed bump ahead of me. This is what I need to do to get over it. Let's make up a plan. I'm all for plans. Let's put a plan in place and let's do it. And obviously,
Yeah.
those plans are not always going to stick. They're not always going to be perfect plans. And along the way, you're going to have to divert a few times. But
Yeah.
I suppose
You have
that's
to
where you
have it's
become
like
resilient.
yeah, like, you have to have a plan and also allow it yourself to flow through it
That's right. Yeah. So
rather
allow yourself to
than
pivot. So it's like,
yeah,
okay, well, I've done this and all this was good and that worked, but now I've got this little issue. So let's fix that and let's get back on the straight and narrow sort of thing.
yeah. I love
Um,
that. I love
so
that so
yeah, as I
much.
said, I
So
do have my moments and it's okay to have your moments. I believe strongly
yes.
that people do need to mourn and grieve and realize what's happening, but I think it's the ability to get out of that as quickly as possible to then just move on. And I always look at something big in the future, like back a few years ago, I had my wedding to look forward to, or I had a
Yeah.
holiday to look forward to, or whatever was going on in my life at that point in time. So I always missed on that and gone, well, I need to get over there in 12 months' time. So how
Yeah.
do I get there?
Yeah, exactly. I love that because it is part of it. It's part of it keeps you focused on a goal
Yeah,
that keeps you hopeful for the future. And that kind of okay, that's what we got to do. You check stuff off the list of
that's
like of your wedding plans, just like you have to plan for a wedding and do I have the caterer? Do I have the DJ? Do I have the venue? Do I have
that's it.
whatever?
Yeah,
It's the same kind of thought process with, okay, my goal is to get to that vacation or to that wedding. What do I need to do for me so that
yeah.
I could check
Just
that
so I
things
can
off the
get there.
list?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
I
really
love
want to
that.
be there.
Exactly. So how do you continue to smile and laugh after everything that you've been through? That's
Yeah,
a
I
big
get
one.
asked this all the time, and I think it's just I always look at life lightheartedly as well, in a way that I don't think it's all serious all the time. I think, yes, you need to be serious in certain situations and things, but go and have fun, go and enjoy your life. Like, life's way too short. Don't be so hard on yourself. If you want to go and eat that burger, go and eat that burger. Go and have a laugh. Like, I suppose that, and I've grown to be resilient. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to sit there and sob every day and feel sorry for myself? Like, that's not a
Yeah.
good quality of life. I want to be
No,
happy and
exactly.
smiley. I want other people to be happy and smiley. So I think it's just that resilience. And also, I do think about what I've been through in the past, but I don't let it affect me. Like, it's been there, it's done, it's in the past. So this is now. And right now, I just want to be happy. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we've already survived our worst day,
yeah,
and the fact that, like, those are already behind us, the only thing that we have is to look forward to the present
that's
because tomorrow is not definitely not promised, and yesterday already happened, so why
it.
dwell on that
Exactly. Remember it and
gift?
remember
Yeah,
what grew you and turn you into the person, but don't let it define you. I never let any of this define me ever. To
yeah,
everyone, I'm just simply Amelia. That's it. Like,
yeah,
and all my medical issues, even now, they just live next to me. They live
yeah.
by my side, and that's it.
God, I love that so much. It just it speaks to my soul.
Yeah.
So you're resilient and motivated. What made you like this?
I think I had no
Was it
choice. I had
yeah,
no choice. That's what it was. And I'm grateful for that because I gained these new skills. I learned how to be resilient. I learned to be motivated. And when you're in these situations, you've got two options. You can give up or you can fight it. And
yeah,
I've chosen to fight every single time. And yeah, I think when you're presented these bad situations or whatever you want to call them, yeah, you've got no choice. Not
yeah. I feel like we do have a choice. You just choose the better option because we do have a choice. I know some people that choose to continue to live in that victimhood, and that, like, if you want to live a good life,
mm-hmm.
victim is definitely not the place you want to be.
So what I should
So,
say, for me, I don't have a choice. um,
yeah.
my choice is
Yeah.
always going to be to fight. I'm not
Yes,
done
I
on this
love
earth.
it.
I've got so many things I want to do, and I'm not ready to leave.
Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. I love that. What have you struggled with the most? And I know that the eyelid, I know that was tough, you said. What helped you walk through that and rebuild that confidence?
Talking to people about it initially,
Yeah.
I was always worried. Well, the first thing was, yeah, the staring, but I couldn't help that. That I can't do anything about that. I was also worried about being with someone like a friend or a family member in public, and I was worried how they would feel being around someone that looked different. But then
Yeah.
when I started going out back out into public and telling people these things, they were just looking at me going, "Are you stupid? Like, stop thinking that way." Like, no, like we want to be with you. I'm like, yeah, but don't you feel awkward being in front of someone that looks different? They're like, no. So I think it's that acceptance. Once I was accepted for
Yeah.
the way I looked, that's what helped me with my confidence. Like I would never dare get in front of the camera to take a photo ever. And then I slowly started to do that. And yes, okay, I've got a certain hairstyle that does cover most of the eye, which I'm working through. Eventually, I'll expose it. But I started off doing that. And then I would start to go to local places and go out for lunch and whatever else I wanted to do. And then I'd start to go into more people with crowds. And then I wrote the book. And then that's when I was like, well, I need to get out there now. So I went and did a
Yeah.
photo shoot. And that's what cemented my confidence, I think. And that gave me the real confidence booster because one, I was accepted by the photographer. And then I had all these beautiful photos. And I'm like, well, I need to share them. Um,
Yeah.
so I started sharing them. And then I started doing, yeah, so like some Zoom calls and things and jumping on webinars, and no one was saying anything. And I thought, okay, well, that's good. That's really
Yeah.
good. And then I've done a couple of speaking gigs in front of, like my last one was in front of 200 people. And so I got up on stage and I spoke to 200 people, and it was one of my first big ones. And everyone was coming up to me afterwards and they weren't even talking about my eye. They were just saying, you're
Yeah.
inspirational, you're amazing, whatever they've said. And I was like, okay, well, they're not even noticing. They're not saying anything. And so, yeah, I think it's just that start off with baby steps, go into that little direction of baby steps, and then grow from there. But then also surround yourself with people that will accept you. And there is a lot out there that will.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. I love
so,
that. So I feel like you had a lot of roadblocks that you had to overcome, but what do you feel like was the biggest roadblock? Do you feel like it was the confidence, or was there something else that you would want someone to take away from your story?
yeah,
Like
I
what
think it's
limiting
the
belief?
confidence, but also the trying to remain positive. And
Yeah.
it's hard, trust me. Like I'm not going to say it's easy, but you just need to hone in and find, like we said before, something to look forward to. Do what you want to do, what makes you happy. Really take care of yourself. Like I had to learn to listen to my body. I've got 10,000 things going on at once and I was burning out all the time. And
Yeah.
so now I've had to learn, well, my body's tired, it needs rest. So go and
Yeah.
take that half an hour rest or hour rest and recuperate. So there's just so many aspects that it's so hard to pinpoint down to one, really.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then is there any like daily habits or rituals that you say that would help you get to that level of
Absolutely.
positivity?
So yeah, positivity. And from a physical point of view, like drinking a lot of water. I try and eat well most of the time, but let's be honest. I don't believe anyone that says they eat 100% well all the time.
No.
um,
No.
So as long as I'm trying and trying to put good food into me, then that's fine. But I will have the sneaky whatever, like the chocolate and whatever else I feel like for the day. I've had to learn to love exercise. I hate exercising. You would never find me at the gym by myself. So I've had to get a personal trainer to keep me accountable. And I've got to do that for my bones. I've got no choice. Like has to be a part of my life now. But it's funny because I hate going there. I hate getting there. But then once I've done my workout, I feel so good. And I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I went now.
I
um,
always say I do it for the after feeling.
that's it. It's so true. Because there's times I wake up and I'm like, oh, do I really have to go? I'm like, no, get yourself out of bed and go. And then I'm so glad afterwards that I've gone. And yeah, it's every day's different. Some day, like you have bad days. There's days where I can't get out of bed, and that's just what it is. And you just do what you can that day. But when I have a really good day, I utilize that day as well. And I'm like, great, I'm having a great day today. I'm full of energy. I'm going to get whatever I want done today. So yeah, just basically listening to yourself and looking after yourself.
That's so good. Yeah, I think self-care that literally changed the trajectory of my life. So
Yeah,
that is what I dedicate my life to doing now, is just
yep,
my oxygen mask goes on first. I take
yep,
care of me first, because if I don't, then how am I going to be here for my kids, for
exactly. Yep.
anybody else in my life? So, yeah, I wholeheartedly believe in all the things that you are saying. Any other things that you want to just give us before we end today?
I suppose I haven't even told anyone my title of my book, have I?
No, I think I said it because I
Oh, you
think that
did. That's right. You
at the
did say
beginning,
it.
yeah, because I said
Yeah.
that sounds familiar to me.
Yes, that's right. You did too. My apologies. No, the only thing I'd like to end with was I made up a quote, and it is being positive doesn't mean that everything's good. It's the ability to see the good in everything. And I
Ugh,
strongly believe no matter what, no matter how shitty the situation is, there is always something good, whether it's small or big, there is always something good in every single situation. Like I
yes.
said before, a
Ugh,
cancer diagnosis is not good. You understand, you've been through it.
yeah.
But the fact that it was my opportunity to go blonde, like that was fun. I'll take
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
So to me,
absolutely.
that's the good thing about it. And like everything thinned out. I lost all my hair. I didn't have to shave for 6 months. Like I was hairless. So like win for us. So just
Sweet.
seeing those little lighthearted things, and yeah, there's always definitely a good in a situation.
I love that. I love that quote. It gave me goosebumps because I wholeheartedly believe the same thing. It's finding the purpose and the meaning behind things. And
That's
I
it.
just that's so,
Well,
oh
yeah,
my
I was
gosh.
just writing my book and I come up with that quote and I'm like, oh, did I just make up a quote? I think I did.
Yes. Yes, I love that. I am so incredibly honored to have met you. I feel like we have to stay connected, obviously, because
Yes,
I want to
definitely.
know all of the things. And honestly, I hope that our listeners got so much out of today, and
I hope
just
so too.
I really truly, from like the bottom of my heart, I am sending all of the positive and good energy and prayers and all intentions, all the things, because I
And
think that you are the light. You became the lighthouse for so many people
yeah,
with your story. And I feel like I can honestly say, just meeting you now, I know why people don't even look at the fact that your eye won't open.
yeah,
Your energy is so absolutely beautiful that it
thank you.
radiates light from it. So I think that if anything, it's
That's
just
it.
another part of your character. And
Yeah,
that's like, you're just winking at us because you
that's
have
it.
so much energy.
That's exactly right.
But I'm so honored. Thank you so much for jumping on. Listeners, again, I hope you got so much out of today. Like I did. I was completely in awe listening to Emilia's story. I am just so excited for this to be heard and for your story to be out there, and go buy her book like immediately.
Thank you so
um
much.
I hope everyone has an amazing rest of their day. Peace out. Thank you for listening. Love your life. Bye bye.